Seneca the Younger. Lucius Annaeus Seneca the Younger, 4 BC to 65 AD, usually known mononymously as Seneca, was a Stoic philosopher of ancient Rome, a statesman, dramatist, and in one work satirist from the post-Augustan age of Latin literature. Seneca was born in Colonia Patricia Corduba in Hispania and was trained in rhetoric and philosophy in Rome. His father was Seneca the Elder. His elder brother was Lucius Junius Gallio Annaeus, and his nephew was the poet Lucan. In 41 AD, Seneca was exiled to the island of Corsica under Emperor Claudius, but was allowed to return in 49 AD to become a tutor to Nero. When Nero became emperor in 54 AD, Seneca became his advisor, and together with the Praetorian prefect Sextus Afranius Burrus provided competent government for the first 5 years of Nero's reign. Seneca's influence over Nero declined with time, and in 65 AD, Seneca was forced to take his own life for alleged complicity in the Pisonian conspiracy to assassinate Nero, of which he was probably innocent. His stoic and calm suicide has become the subject of numerous paintings. As a writer, Seneca is known for his philosophical works and for his plays, which are all tragedies. His prose works include 12 essays and 124 letters dealing with moral issues. These writings constitute one of the most important bodies of primary material for ancient Stoicism. As a tragedian, he is best known for plays such as his Medea, Thyestes, and Phaedra. Seneca had an immense influence on later generations. During the Renaissance, he was a sage, admired and venerated as an oracle of moral, even of Christian edification, a master of literary style and a model for dramatic art. A man who suffers before it is necessary suffers more than is necessary. It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that they are difficult. The wise will start each day with the thought, fortune gives us nothing which we can really own, nothing whether public or private is stable. The destinies of men, no less than those of cities, are in a whirl. Whatever structure has been reared by a long sequence of years, at the cost of great toil and through the great kindness of the gods, is scattered and dispersed in a single day. No, he who has said a day has granted too long a postponement to swift misfortune. An hour, an instant of time suffices for the overthrow of empires. How often have cities in Asia, how often in Achaia, been laid low by a single shock of earthquake? How many towns in Syria, how many in Macedonia have been swallowed up? How often has this kind of devastation laid Cyprus in ruins? We live in the middle of things which have all been destined to die. Mortal have you been born, to mortals have you given birth. Reckon on everything, expect everything. A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials. A feeling that the rules of justice have been violated, rules which dictate that if we are honourable, we will be rewarded, and that if we are bad, we will be punished. A sense of justice inculcated in the earliest education of children and found in most religious texts, for example, in the book of Deuteronomy, which explains that the godly person shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. The ungodly are not so, but are like chaff which the wind driveth away. While we are postponing, life speeds by. It is a rough road that leads to the heights of greatness. The wise man can lose nothing. He has everything invested in himself. The wise man is self-sufficient. If he loses a hand through disease or war, or if some accident puts out one or both of his eyes, he will be satisfied with what is left. The wise man will not despise himself, even if he has the stature of a dwarf, but he nevertheless wishes to be tall. The wise man is self-sufficient in that he can do without friends, not that he desires to do without them. One of the most beautiful qualities of true friendship is to understand and to be understood. Never did I trust fortune, even when she seemed to be offering peace. All those blessings which she kindly bestowed on me, money, public office, influence, I relegated to a place from which she could take them back without disturbing me. Between them and me I have kept a wide gap, and so she has merely taken them, not torn them from me. If one does not know to which port one is sailing, no wind is favourable. An animal struggling against the noose tightens it. There is no yoke so tight that it will not hurt the animal less if it pulls with it than if it fights against it. The one alleviation for overwhelming evils is to endure and bow to necessity. The bravest sight in the world is to see a great man struggling against adversity. A lightning bolt is fire that has been compressed and hurled violently. Sometimes we take up water in our two clasped hands and, pressing our palms together, squirt out water the way a pump does. Suppose something like this occurs in the clouds. The constricted space of the compressed clouds forces out the air that is between them, and by means of this pressure sets the air afire and hurls it the way a catapult does. We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than from reality. Among the arguments that prove earthquakes occur because of moving air, this is one you shouldn't hesitate to put forward. When a great tremor has exhausted its rage against cities and countries, another equal to it cannot follow. After the largest shock, there are only gentle quakes, because the first tremor, acting with greater vehemence, has created an exit for the struggling air. He who is brave is free. Winter brings on cold weather, and we must shiver. Summer returns with its heat, and we must sweat. Unseasonable weather upsets the health, and we must fall ill. In certain places we may meet with wild beasts, or with men who are more destructive than any beasts. And we cannot change this order of things. It is to this law of nature that our souls must adjust themselves. This they should follow, this they should obey. That which you cannot reform, it is best to endure. What need is there to weep over parts of life? The whole of it calls for tears. Moral Essays by Lucius Annaeus Seneca, Book 3, To Novatus on Anger, Book 1. You have importuned me, Novatus, to write on the subject of how anger may be allayed. And it seems to me that you had good reason to fear in an especial degree this, the most hideous and frenzied of all the emotions. For the other emotions have in them some element of peace and calm, while this one is wholly violent and has its being in an onrush of resentment, raging with the most inhuman lust for weapons, blood, and punishment, giving no thought to itself if only it can hurt another, hurling itself upon the very point of the dagger, and eager for revenge, though it may drag down the avenger along with it. Certain wise men, therefore, have claimed that anger is temporary madness, for it is equally devoid of self-control, forgetful of decency, unmindful of ties, persistent and diligent in whatever it begins, closed to reason and counsel, excited by trifling causes, unfit to discern the right and true, the very counterpart of a ruin that is shattered in pieces where it overwhelms. But you have only to behold the aspect of those possessed by anger to know that they are insane, for as the marks of a madman are unmistakable, a bold and threatening mien, a gloomy brow, a fierce expression, a hurried step, restless hands, an altered colour, a quick and more violent breathing. So likewise are the marks of the angry man. His eyes blaze and sparkle, his whole face is crimson with the blood that surges from the lowest depths of the heart. his lips quiver, his teeth are clenched, his hair bristles and stands on end. His breathing is forced and harsh, his joints crack from writhing. He groans and bellows, bursts out into speech with scarcely intelligible words, strikes his hands together continually and stamps the ground with his feet. His whole body is excited and performs great angry threats. It is an ugly and horrible picture of distorted and swollen frenzy. You cannot tell whether this vice is more execrable or more hideous. Other vices may be concealed and cherished in secret. Anger shows itself openly and appears in the countenance, and the greater it is, the more visibly it boils forth. Do you not see how animals of every sort, as soon as they bestir themselves for mischief, show premonitory signs, and how their whole body, forsaking its natural state of repose, accentuates their ferocity? Wild boars foam at the mouth and sharpen their tusks by friction. Bulls toss their horns in the air and scatter the sand by pawing. Lions roar, snakes puff up their necks when they are angry, and mad dogs have a sullen look. No animal is so hateful and so deadly by nature as not to show a fresh access of fierceness as soon as it is assailed by anger. And yet I am aware that the other emotions as well are not easily concealed. That lust and fear and boldness all show their marks and can be recognized beforehand. For no violent agitation can take hold of the mind without affecting in some way the countenance, where then lies the difference. In this, the other emotions show, anger stands out. Moreover, if you choose to view its results and the harm of it, no plague has cost the human race more dear. You will see bloodshed and poisoning, the vile countercharges of criminals, the downfall of cities and whole nations given to destruction, princely persons sold at public auction, houses put to the torch, and conflagration that holds not within the city walls, but makes great stretches of the country glow with hostile flame. Behold the most glorious cities whose foundations can scarcely be traced. Anger cast them down. As long as you live, keep learning how to live